like crap. I went to the ER this weekend for huge amounts of stomach issues, and they told me there was basically nothing wrong with me and to come back when there was. I had to go to work tomorrow. Today is Monday, but I figured what better way to cheer myself up than to read a book with highly unlikable characters, which is The Blade Itself by Joe Abercrombie. And while I read this, I'm going to snuggle with my wonderful puppy and my wonderful kitty.
Fireplace music, and it's very relaxing, and I think I might end up falling asleep before the end of this clip. Very sleepy all of a sudden, and it's kind of refreshing reading bad characters for once, especially when I'm in such a grumpy mood, which we'll get into more here in a little bit when I get up to feed the dog and fold some clothes. I promise. It's about half an hour later. I've read about 30 more pages of this, bringing me up to about page 70. I'm actually really liking this. Yes, it's dark, and yes, it's gruesome, but the characters in it are, like, really cracking me up. I think Logan's my favorite so far. I don't really like Galacta, even though I know he is everybody's favorite. And then, I don't remember the other guy's name, even though I was just reading from his perspective, but the way he's falling all over himself for his friend's sister is actually kind of adorable. And I don't ship it because I have a feeling it's going to end rather badly, just given the nature of this book, but I kind of ship it, and that's something I didn't think I was going to have happen in a grimdark book. My mother just called me to check on me, and then my friend sent me a Tokyo Ska version of Remember Me from Coco, and I spent 10 minutes crying about it. Not like the happy, or not like the sad, depressing cry that I usually get, but the I miss ska concerts and wish I could go back to them ASAP, and I can't because nobody around here refuses to wear a damn mask, and it's a little frustrating. I meant everybody around here refuses to wear their damn mask. I'm tired. I apologize. But now I'm going to go make some chocolate pudding and eat chocolate pudding for dinner because I'm a grown-ass adult who can do these things, and I am out of soup and rice and don't feel like going to McDonald's because McDonald's and stomach issues don't make a good mix.
It's an hour past my dinner time. I'm hungry. Can you please feed me now? And take me out so I can poop.
So demanding. How dare she ask for the basic necessities of life? It's just so wrong of her. It's now about 10 till 8. I just got back from taking the dog out, which was much more of an adventure than it strictly needed to be because she's such a princess about pooping. But she pooped, finally. And then we had words about her trying to attack another dog that said something funny to her. And now, I don't think I actually want chocolate pudding. I don't know what I want, but I should probably eat something. I kind of want to do just grilled cheese, which is not great stomach food, but I'm kind of feeling grilled cheese and apple juice for dinner, embracing my inner 5-year-old. So that's what I'm going to make, and y'all are going to help me make it. People with stomach issues, lots of butter, cheese, and carbs, but it's what I'm in the mood for. Since I can't decide what I'm in the mood for ever, we're going with it. I'm going to take my anti-nausea medication and hope that it doesn't knock me out the way it has been. And finish off my water, and then pour myself a glass of apple juice, and then find something to watch on the TV for dinner, finish folding my clothes, and then hopefully read another 30 to 40 pages. Grilled cheese is made, about to be consumed by me, not by Puppo. And now we shall binge watch something for like the next half an hour or so, and get to reading for another half an hour.
Mandalorian episode 2, because I forgot this was on.
This is the only reason why I've kept Disney Plus. That, and I've occasionally watched the Avengers movies. And I'm sorry that my hair looks like crap. I put it up so I could finish cooking. I need to brush it, but nobody got time for that. Y'all don't care, right? Cool. Also, just a note, I hate how there's really no regularity in between how loud certain apps are. Like Disney Plus, Chromecasting is so quiet. Then I switch over to YouTube and have to turn it down to like 1 or 2% on my volume control because everybody there actually knows how to sound mix. And then you switch back to Disney and you can't hear anything. And then Hulu and Netflix are more or less the same. And it's so stressful. Why can't everybody just have the same volume so I don't have to constantly be messing with it on the TV? Oh. I have finished lunch, dinner, whatever meal of the day it is. And I finished folding all of my laundry. And I actually put it away, and I feel mildly accomplished. I didn't get around to making my bed because I looked at it, and I'm like, I don't have the energy for that tonight. So now I'm watching rant reviews from some of my favorite book YouTubers, plotting my own for one day when I have the viewership to support doing that. And I'm going to attempt to read the next 30 or so pages of this before I fall asleep. So, we're going to continue with my Grim Dark Book Fest. I will have to say, all of this has been very helpful for my, low levels of anxiety that have been building up about going back to work tomorrow. I'm not feeling great again, so I don't know how much later I'm going to stay up. If I hit the 100-page mark in this book, great. If I just end up falling asleep after 5 minutes, that's great too. But I would like to thank y'all for sticking around if you've made it this far in the video so far. I don't know if I will update you or not before I go back to sleep. If not, I will try to give you guys an update tomorrow. But in the meantime, I hope you guys are enjoying this video so far, and I'll check in with you guys as soon as I can. Super warning. And they decide correctly and handled it. So one of the reasons why I'm so grumpy is I mentioned earlier that I went to the hospital this weekend. I'd been feeling a lot of pressure in my stomach area for no reason. Like, I'd been feeling just fine on Friday. Like, it was one of the best days I've had in a while. I felt fantastic. Woke up Saturday, felt like my cat was sitting on my chest. And of course she was. So I picked her up and moved her off me, and I still felt like that. And I felt like that all day. I worked at Tall Tales that evening, and I made a deal with myself that I'd go over to urgent care if it still wasn't better. Took some Tylenol, drank like 2 bottles of Sprite. Helped a little bit, but it still felt like really uncomfortable. Kind of like how you feel after you run a 10K, only without actually having run the 10K. And then I went to urgent care, and they were all convinced that I had COVID. And then they were like, wait, you're not running a fever. You're not coughing. You don't have COVID. I'm like, oh, no shit. So they did some tests. And they started pushing around on my stomach, which I hadn't done because I'm just like, there's just pressure, there's no pain. And then they found a really painful spot. So they sent me to the ER because they were like, well, that's very concerning for a lot of reasons. So they sent me to the ER. I got there about 20 minutes later. It was like 8:30. No, it was 8 o'clock. And I checked in, and then I sat down. They called me relatively quick to go get vitals, and I'm like, oh, yay. And then they called me relatively quick to go get labs drawn. I'm like, cool. And then I waited for 3 hours. 3 hours, which I know mine wasn't an emergency. Like, I was still ambulatory, and I wasn't, like, exhibiting any terrible symptoms or anything, but it was freezing cold. Nobody seemed to know what was going on. And then there was a guy in there who I'm pretty sure was in the middle of an overdose, who was coughing and, like, waving his hands around and grunting to himself and smelled very unclean. And he was just making me really uncomfortable, and he kept following me around every time I tried to subtly move to get away from him. And after about 2.5 hours of this, I got up and went to ask nurses. I'm like, hey, do you know about how much longer? They're like, we're getting your room ready. We'll call you when we know. Go away. And I'm like, well, you don't have to be rude about it. And they're like, well, we don't have an answer for you. Just go sit down. We'll call you when we're ready. I'm like, all right. Meanwhile, the people who got there well after me and who were in like more or less the same position I was were getting called back before I was getting a little frustrated, texting my friends. I'm like, well, if I'm not back in the back, seen by a doctor by like midnight, I'm going home, because I hadn't eaten anything since 2 o'clock. My head was starting to hurt. I was freezing because I had left my sweatshirt in my car, and I was tired. I wasn't feeling well. I just wanted to go home and go to bed. And then finally at 11:30 they called me back, and then they put me in a room. And then that was it. Like, I didn't hear from anybody or anything. Another half an hour went by, and finally a physician's assistant came in, and he spent 5 minutes in there. He asked me a couple of questions, all of which I'd already answered before. He did the same test that the doctor at the urgent care place had run, and he's just like, okay, we'll get you an ultrasound, and I'll go check your blood work, and I'll be back in a little bit. Another half an hour goes by. I am so tired, and it is still freezing in this hospital, and I'm losing cell signal. My phone is dying. I'm just like, I just want to go home. Then the lab tech who took me down to the ultrasound, she was actually super nice, and she was super sweet. She did a great job on the ultrasound. It was a nice, dark, quiet, warm room, and I was almost asleep by the time she finished. That took like half an hour, and it was ridiculous. Then she took me back up, and then a nurse came in 2 seconds later and gave me a blanket. And then by this point, it's like 1 a.m., and I am so tired. So I curl up on the bed, and I'm pretty much zonked out. And then right after I'd fallen asleep, nurse comes back in, asks me literally all the same questions, takes my temperature and whatnot. She's like, oh, you don't have COVID. I'm like, I was never here for COVID in the first place. Go away. And then I go back to sleep. And then she comes back in with discharge paper. She's like, all right, you're all set. I'm like, is nobody going to tell me anything? And she's like, you mean nobody's told you anything? I'm like, no, I've been asleep. And she's like, oh. And then the physician's assistant walked by, and he's like, oh yeah, I should probably tell you your diagnosis. You're fine. You just need to go see a specialist. It wasn't the serious thing we thought it was. You just are way too stressed out and need to change your eating habits. I'm like, alright. He's like, you can go see a specialist on Monday. Here's some prescriptions. Hope you feel better. Bye. They gave me a medication that I told everybody that I was allergic to. So I'm not taking that one. I'm taking the other two because they're actually helping, but I'm not taking the one that I've told everybody I'm allergic to at this point. And I go home, and I go back, and I spent all of yesterday asleep. And they had given me a doctor's note. I misread the doctor's note and thought it said I was good to return to work on Wednesday. So I texted my boss that, and then she texted me back today. She's like, well, you only have enough sick time for tomorrow, or for today. Do you want to just come tomorrow if you're feeling up to it? She's like, no sweat if you're not. And I text her back. I'm like, well, I was going to come back tomorrow anyway because I read the sheet again, and apparently I was supposed to come back tomorrow anyway. She's like, oh, so you lied so you could get more time off. I'm like, no. I misread it because I was tired, and I'm sorry that I misread it and told you the wrong thing. I was not trying to get out of work. I'm telling you that I was going to come back to work tomorrow anyway, so I don't really get why you're yelling at me. That's why I wanted to sit down and do a nice little cozy vlog where I make grilled cheese and watch some TV and read books where people are unpleasant for no good reasons with you guys. So I'm sorry if this is a little bit of a rambling mess. I'm sorry if you guys don't really care that much about what happened. I am feeling a lot better. It's like 9:30 now, 9:40, almost 10 o'clock. So it's not super early, and I do have to get up at 6:30 tomorrow. But anyway, I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. I hope nothing super stressful is going on with you, and hopefully, anyway, feel free to let me know down below what you guys do when you're not feeling well, when you feel like the whole world's against you, and I'll see you soon with another video. Bye.
Mama, it's bedtime. Here's